What's going on? Josh Culler here, host of the Good Success Podcast. The following podcast episode is a cut presentation from Think Realty's brand ambassador, John Wiley, at the November 2018 Good Success Mastermind event in Miami, Florida. The event actually could not have gone any better. We're very excited about the next event, which is going to be in Dallas, Texas, hosted by our good friends, the Quest Trust Company and Quincy Long, who is a part of our Good Success Mastermind community. So to learn more about the Good Success Mastermind group, to see if it's a good fit for you, go to goodsuccess.com/mastermind, fill out the application there, and you'll talk to myself or Tom Olson, president of Good Success. And like I said, our next event is in Dallas, Texas, hosted by the Quest Trust Company, starting February 4 through the 8th. It's going to be a full week of masterminding, a lot of great networking, a lot of great feedback and vulnerability, and it's just going to be an absolutely awesome event. So make sure you take advantage of that, goodsuccess.com/mastermind, and then make sure to subscribe to the Good Success Podcast if you have not done so. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Podcasts, and all the podcast platforms. Just search for Good Success and you'll find us there. If you're able to leave a review, make sure you do that. We will love your feedback on this. So we hope you enjoy this uncut presentation from John Wiley. Is an absolutely fantastic presentation on your competitors and looking at them as enemies versus your friends. And so this is a great teaching moment for everybody that has competitors out there, which you would consider. So make sure you pay attention, take some notes, and hope you enjoy.
So I want to share my share. What have I learned? I've learned what the number one killer of creative problem solving is. Creative problem solving. Every single person in here, you've been given a gift. You can solve problems. Your intuition, we're all pre-wired with intuition. Every one of us. We may not have all the right answers mathematically or know who to call, but intuitively, when something's wrong, you know what's wrong. When something's right, how many of you have had that? I just know that's right. It just feels right? So, but there's a killer of that intuition. And I want to share with you, it's the killer of your creative problem solving in business, in life. I believe it's your perception of your enemies. And I'm going to show it to you, and that's why I brought this up. I want to read you something that I'm getting ready to release a blog on. I forgot which button it was already. There it goes. How many have heard this before? Love your enemies, said by a famous person, right? I think it's a good idea, love your enemies. Here's what we've done with this beautiful instruction to love your enemies. What we've done is we've misunderstood it. What we think is that means go out and find who your enemy is and then resist them. But that was not the spirit by which it was communicated. And when we spend our lives resisting and fighting in business and worrying about your competitors and worrying about what everybody else is doing, you're killing your creativity. The best part of you spend struggling and resisting and fighting and building a war chest and worrying about others. And I really think it means more like this, and this will help us in business. Live in such a way that from your heart you don't see anyone as your enemy. Now you may be going, that's crazy, I've got competitors. They're after my customers, right? And that's because we suffer, what I've learned is I think we suffer from a larger problem that gets in the way of our creativity and our ability to live in such a way as that we don't have enemies. Matter of fact, did you know that your competitors are actually your friends? You're in the same space together, all facing the same problems, and they can help make you better. But if you perceive them as your enemy, that's not their problem, that's your problem. Because now you're going to spend valuable resources fighting a perceived enemy when you could have lived in such a way that you loved your enemy rather than resist them. How many know it takes money and time and resources to resist? Anybody been involved in a lawsuit before? Did that take up your time, your resources? After you were done, you wish, man, I wish I'd gone another way, even if you won, right? So, let me read this to you real quick. This is what I found for myself. And I'm going to speak for myself now. My enemy within me is my need to have an enemy without to resist. That's my internal enemy. My need to have something to resist, an enemy. It takes a considerable amount of energy and a lot of resources to stay pulled to one side. Let's think about our politics right now. And I don't want to make this political, but let's just have a look at our culture in the United States. How much emotional and capital and financial capital is spent fighting right now in our nation right now? How fractured are we right now? Right? Matter of fact, there's so much, we're so and I'm having this conversation right now. What I've learned is we see this reflected in our American culture and our politics. Don't be fooled. It's also trickling down right into our business. They're not separate. We're wholly integrated human beings. We're delusional if we think we can separate it all out. I'm not that way in my business, but I am that way in my politics. Oh no, you're that way all the way through. So that the energy, the fight it stays to oppose everybody or to be against or to worry about your competitor is taking away your precious creativity, the time with your team. When a company culture must have a competitor to resist to keep the sales elevated, there is unhealth in that company. When one operates from an adversarial view of let's crush the competitors, the ability to discern the market's need is lost. Your resources are spent on resisting rather than creative problem solving. The basis, where does this basis of needing to have an enemy to resist come from? I'm going to take it down. We're peeling an onion here. I'm going to peel the onion one more time, and then I'll stop, because I could keep peeling for a while. This will get real philosophical. But I'll give you one more onion peel. Where does it come from? Where does this need to have enemies in our politics and in our business even originate from? Because we're not even aware we're doing it when we do it, right? So the basic need of needing an enemy to resist comes from the belief, it comes from belief that there's limited resources. It comes from the core belief that there's not enough to go around. And when we believe there's not enough to go around and there's limited resources, that's mine. Thank you. So when we believe that there's limited resources, here's the deal. When we believe that there's actually a limit of resources, we spend time fighting for those resources. The basis of needing an enemy, as I've already said, comes from that. Said another way, the idea that there's not enough to go around is where it comes from. By default, this belief creates an adversarial worldview. We then have a need for winners or losers. Just look at our politics right now. We have this great need. You're right, I'm wrong. The whole thing, right? If you're not for me, then you are what? If you're not for me, you're and if you're against me, you're oh my goodness. And we do this in business. You know how I knew I needed help? I started treating my tenants that way. Just being transparent. I started seeing my tenants as my enemy. The very people I'm trying to serve. I knew I needed a heart check, right? I saw them as my adversaries. How many think that'll affect your business model? Right? I was making business decisions, to protect myself from my adversary. So I'll explain to you when I realized what I was doing, how it radically gave me a solution that I needed. Because when I stopped seeing them as my enemy, within 2 weeks, one day I went, I know what to do, and it solved all my problems. Because my creative side got released. So rather than resisting them, I spent that same amount of energy pondering what to do, right? Instead of saying I don't know what to do, I started saying to myself, I'm going to figure out exactly what to do. Or who should I be calling, right? Like I got creative. So when there's a lack paradigm, when you believe there's a lack of resources, whether it's not enough money to go around, not enough properties to go around, not enough tenants to go around, not enough good people to hire, whatever it is that you when we perceive that there's a lack, we manifest this enemy thing that we think the fight is on. We give birth to our own need to fight. So here's my last statement that I'll read, and then I'll share with you back to the tenant thing, and then I'll get to my ask for some help. In truth, there is a never-ending supply of untapped resources in this universe. There's think of every person who invented something or came with a revolutionary breakthrough that no one else had ever seen or ever thought of before. How did they do that? They got creative. And the number one thing that saps our creativity is our energy resisting. So back to my issue with my tenants. My portfolio was in trouble. My rent collections were going down. My evictions were going up. I'm getting bitter. I'm now circling the wagons, thinking how to spend my resources to teach these tenants a lesson. I mean, I'm only hurting who? Myself. And that's when I realized what I was doing. I had to live up to all the values I just put out there to you. I caught myself not being true to the little boy, the child on the inside. And I thought, repent means to turn and go another way. How long does it take to repent? How long does it take? Like a millisecond. I went, oh, I know what I'm doing. I know what to do. And I sat down in my chair and I thought, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to ponder this in a creative way and just start writing. What can I do? What can I do? And it took a couple of days. I didn't sit there for 2 days, but take a time and ponder, get creative, call some friends that wouldn't join me in bad-mouthing the problem or wouldn't add fuel to the fire, which is what I love about this groups like this, right? So positive. All of a sudden, the epiphany came, the light came on, the intuition clicked in. And I went, I know what to do. I'm going to own or carry these properties. You may say, well, yeah, big deal, right? It was a big deal to me. It was the thing I needed to do. It was like that was going to solve the tension I was getting from my property manager and all of that. And I thought, I'm going to put myself on a path. I'm going to build new relationships. I'm going to further solve the problem in the inner city. I'm going to continue to remodel beautiful homes. And so I started down that path. It changed my whole cash flow position. And over time, it changed everything because I stopped resisting and fighting and complaining and moaning and groaning and seeing them as my problem. I got creative, the God-given creativity that was already with me all along, got released when I stopped having an enemy. So I put that to you in your business, your team, your creative team, that brainstorming time. I know we've got competitors, but I would encourage you to find a way to don't resist your competitor, acknowledge that they exist, and put your eyes on the felt need of the market. Here's how the creativity came. It was, what does my tenant really need? And I realized what they needed. They needed to own their own home and be given a chance to no longer be kept suppressed in that renter. And the landlord, that's an interesting term, the landlord, the one who lords over your life. I had stepped into that historic relationship of owner, non-owner. And so I was able to treat more people like human beings. Now, I still have rental properties, and I'll still have them, but it helped me.
Thank you so much for listening to this Good Success podcast episode. Make sure to subscribe to us. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Anchor, or Spotify, any one of those platforms, however you like to listen to your podcast. Make sure you subscribe. And just a quick reminder to go pick up your free copy of the Active Turnkey book. It's absolutely free. Just cover the shipping costs and we'll pay for the book. Just head over to goodsuccess.com/ATK book. Again, that's goodsuccess.com/ATK book. And you can pick up the book there. So make sure you go do that. Thank you for listening. And remember to be a conduit, not a bucket.